Hi friends, Jen here with Serenity Hill Farmstead. We're working on some stuff on the farm today, and again, kids are doing chores, so it's time for me to film. It's becoming a regular thing. Today I'm going to talk about something that I admittedly am not an expert in, but I get a lot of questions about this, so I'm going to share with you what I know as a place for you to start, and that is herbs that have to do with menopause. So something that I get a lot, I think there's this big misconception about menopause, about women being in menopause. So this is the way menopause works. So you are premenopausal until you have had no cycle for 12 months. On that day, you have hit menopause. From that day on, you are postmenopausal. So being in menopause is not a thing. Really, you are premenopausal or you are postmenopausal. Unless you are on that 12th month mark, your anniversary of having no period, congratulations, then you are technically in menopause, I guess, on that one day. Before that, premenopausal, after that, postmenopausal. So that whole premenopausal time can happen for 10 years. It can happen for a few years for some women, and it can happen for 10 plus years, really up to 15 years for other women. And the symptoms that you can have from them can be very, very mild, or they can be absolutely awful. And all of those symptoms, those are the things that women need help with. Now, a lot of things happen to your body during that time, and I really want to urge you to do really a lot of research looking into menopause and premenopause and postmenopause, and really the different times of it, of the whole process, that whole change that happens to us, because you need to understand exactly what your body's going through in order to be able to take the correct treatments for it. And I'm not just talking about herbs. There's been so many studies about estrogen replacement, and I'm probably losing a lot of you just in mentioning that, because if you're here for herbs, you don't want to hear estrogen. But our body is not producing it like it used to. And that can have some really devastating effects for some women. Now, for other women that have estrogen-fed cancers, like breast cancers, certain types of breast cancers, ovarian cancer, cervical cancer, uterine cancer, all of those types of cancers, those are estrogen-fed cancers. Taking estrogen supplements is something you need to do with your doctor. And taking phytoestrogen supplements is something you need to do with your doctor. So phytoestrogen, well, what is that? Well, phyto means plant, estrogen, estrogen. So a phytoestrogen is an estrogen that is derived from a plant. And those are the herbs that we are looking to support us with these wonderful premenopausal symptoms. So let's talk a little more about those symptoms. So they're such a wide variety. They are things like mood swings. They are things like appetite changes. They're things like you didn't used to have certain types of headaches and now you do. They can be libido changes. They can be body changes. They can be hot flashes. They can be night sweats. They can be insomnia. There are so many different changes. And there's changes that most women are not told about by their primary doctors, and their gynecologists just do not provide this information. We've talked about this before, that they don't give you all the information. That's why self-education is just so important. But one of the big things that women do not equate to any kind of hormone fluctuations is your heart health. If you are in a pre or postmenopausal time and you start having palpitations, you start having an increase of cardiac issues, you may want to look at your hormones. If you're, now obviously the very first thing you do is you rule out any kind of actual heart problems. That is the most important thing. But if you're still having these issues, you need to look at your hormones, because palpitations from hormone changes is so common. A lot of women experience it. And along with that, you can start experiencing issues with your blood pressure. Now, there are a lot of underlying conditions that can also cause this, that can be affected even more because you are in premenopause and have these conditions, the number one thing is PCOS. If you have PCOS and you are having palpitations and you are having blood pressure issues and you are having migraines and things like that, you should seriously consider talking to your doctor about estrogen, or looking into phytoestrogens as a way to help. I know a lot of you want to go the natural route first. I am there with you. I'm right there. We're here on this, okay? But don't rule out estrogen. Don't rule out doing estrogen, like hormone replacement therapy, okay? Don't rule that out. But if you want to go the more natural route, I have 3 herbs we're going to start with. So let's go into them all individually, and then I'm going to talk a little bit afterwards about some of the other herbs that could also complement those herbs to help more specifically with some of the symptoms you may be experiencing. So motherwort is the first one, and this one, I'm not necessarily new to motherwort. I'm newer to motherwort. This is something that we've just started incorporating and carrying this past growing season, and we're growing it now, and well, it's in the ground. We'll see if it comes up. I think it should. We should be okay. But motherwort is incredibly helpful with menopausal type symptoms. So things that are affecting your heart, things that are affecting your blood pressure, motherwort can help tremendously with. So I'm going to read, of course, my favorite book here, Modern Herbal Dispensatory. I'll put a link down there. It's always on sale when I link it, so definitely check it out. But I'm going to read from you, because I don't have these memorized yet, the properties from it. It's an antiarrhythmic, which means that it is going to help regulate the rhythm in your heart. Your heart has its own electrical system. So if it gets disrupted, which is very sensitive, it can get disrupted by a number of things, hormones being the biggest influence from that, then it's going to be all off and it's going to be all wonky. You're going to be feeling those palpitations. You're going to start having arrhythmias, they call them, or dysrhythmias. So that is antiarrhythmic herbs will help too. They'll support a regular rhythm in your heart. It is a cardiac herb. So anything that says cardiac means it is a good herb for your heart. It's going to help support overall function. Amenagogue, however you pronounce that. I say amenagogue. It's probably amenagogue. I hear a lot of people say that, but that's what I say. All right, so amenagogue herbs are going to be herbs that are going to stimulate your menstruation, to stimulate your cycle. So motherwort does not just need to be used for women going through premenopause or postmenopause. It can be used for girls, for younger girls that are having an issue with their cycles being regulated. So this is something, you don't just jump into it. Like, it's very normal for a young girl when they first start their cycles, and they're anywhere from 10 to really 15, and their cycles are kind of sporadic, where like 1 month they'll have a heavier cycle, and then another month it'll be like just spotted and it really not much of anything, or the timing, like their cycle dates are not regular. That is very much normal. But once you start, if you've had it for a few years and you're not having regular cycles, this is an herb that you can use to help regulate the hormones and to help regulate menstruation. The next property is sedative. So this does have a really nice sedative property to it. If you have that nervous anxiety, which can also go along with your hormones being all out of whack, especially during your cycle. When your cycle happens and your hormones are like spike drop, and you're having those kinds of things happen. We all know how this feels, right, ladies? Having an herb that has that sedative property is really nice for your nervous system. If during any point in time in your cycle you have like nervous anxiety, you get really frustrated, really angry easily, this can be a very helpful herb for you too. The last two properties are hypotensive and vasodilator. And I'm going to talk about these two together because they kind of go hand in hand. So anything that is hypotensive, hypo means low, tensive is referring to pressure in your vessels. So hypotensive is talking about your blood pressure. So when you have an increase of blood pressure due to hormonal situations, this is an herb that can be very supportive in maintaining a healthy blood pressure. And vasodilator, vaso means your veins, and dilator is dilator. So it's dilating your veins. So along with having high blood pressure and having more visceral fat and more inflammation in your body, all things that can happen to us during all phases of menopause, You can have a constriction of your blood vessels. Like all of this goes together. You have inflammation, you have increase of visceral fat, which is a type of fat that hangs onto your organs. This is the dangerous type of fat, and you don't have to be obese. You can be super thin and fit and not have an ounce of what we call subcutaneous fat on your body, okay? Like me, I have a larger amount of subcutaneous fat. So you could look at me and think like, oh, like I'm more at risk for having visceral fat. No, ma'am, you do not. You can be thin as a rail and still have a large, scary amount of visceral fat hanging out inside your body, holding your organs. That is the type of fat that causes organ damage. That is the type of fat that can cause really, really nasty things to happen in your heart, in your vessels, in your lungs, in your gut. Like, that's the nasty stuff. So taking an herb, even if you are choosing to go the pharmaceutical way, taking herbs that can support your system they're very important. But if you are going to be taking hormone replacement therapy, it's super important that you are talking to your doctor and your pharmacist like together. Talk to them both, because they specialize in different things. A doctor is going to know hormone replacement therapy, but they may not know herbs. So if you don't have a doctor that knows this, you need to talk to someone that does know this before you jump into it, because the last thing you want to be doing is getting hormones from here and hormones from here, and you're causing a problem in yourself. So you need to make sure that that is safe for you to do before you jump into it. Some other work can also do some other pretty awesome things, like helping with menstrual cramps. If you get really bad menstrual cramps, another super fun thing about perimenopause or premenopause is our cycles can get really bad. The bleeding can get really awful. The cramping can get really awful in ways that it hasn't before. Your cycles just get so irregular. So motherwort really helps as a whole with women's reproductive health and the whole cardiovascular system to help support the heart and everything that's involved with the heart, and help to prevent things like heart disease. The next one we're going to talk about is red clover. I love red clover. This is one I'm not new to. We have been using red clover for a long time now. It grows wild here. We have it everywhere. We use it everywhere. In fact, my kids will go just pick it up. They call it Indian candy. And they'll peel up the blossoms and they'll sit there and just eat them one petal at a time. So red clover is a really good blood purifier. It's also a really good lymphatic herb. So basically those two things together. Lymphatic herbs help promote good lymphatic drainage. So we've talked about this in other videos, but the lymphatic system is like the superhighway to anywhere in your body. So if you do have cancer, they will take some lymph nodes if they're concerned about that, and they'll make sure that there is no evidence of cancer cells into your lymphatic system, because once they get there, it can go anywhere. It can go anywhere in your entire body. So you do not want lymphatic involvement. So having herbs like red clover that are really good for stimulating the lymphatic system can help move things through so things don't get stagnant. When you have swollen lymph glands, when you're sick, like if you have a sore throat or you have sinus congestion or some viruses, your doctor will feel around your neck, and they won't push hard, but you can feel them. Like the most popular ones right here, you can feel them in your arm. There's a bunch of them in your armpit here. They're just throughout your body. But your lymphatic glands, you can feel them when they're swollen. You can feel them swelling up. There's some around here. So you can feel them everywhere. So if you're feeling little lumps and bumps and things, and your doctor goes, oh, it's just a lymph gland, it's a good idea to do some lymphatic drainage there. And you can do lymphatic drainage manually, and it's very gentle touch. It's just, going in a specific direction and making sure you are promoting good lymphatic circulation. And then taking herbs like red clover to help with that. Cleavers is another one. Chickweed is another one. Things that help promote lymphatic drainage. Really, really important. But that alterative property, the blood purifying property, that's the big one for red clover. It's really good at helping to detox. We talked about detox before, cleansing the liver, because the liver is our number one purifying, detoxing, like pick your word, pick your adjective here. What the liver does is it helps to clear things out. It is the biggest and most important filter in the body. So this is a very good supportive herb for that. Now it also is loaded with phytoestrogen. So if you have a cancer, or you have had a cancer that is an estrogen affected cancer. You need to be very careful with red clover and talk to your doctor first about this one, or your naturopath. Hopefully you're talking to your naturopath, because doctors don't know much about this. And just as a side note, red clover can be used with any kind of respiratory illness too. It's really good for helping with things like pertussis, which is whooping cough, bronchitis, anything like pneumonias, anything that's going to produce like a really nasty cough, croup, anything like that. It can be used for that also. And this one, we're going to be reading straight from the book from, because I have never used this herb before, but I am studying about it now, and I have been reading quite a bit and hearing quite a bit about it, and that is black cohosh. So black cohosh has quite a few warnings in this book about pregnancy. This is something they're saying that you should not be using this at all in early pregnancy, but you can in other parts of pregnancy. You really need to be very careful with it, because it can stimulate labor through your entire pregnancy. I personally, anything that has that kind of warning on it, I don't ever suggest to anybody, just because you got to be careful with that stuff. So if you're using an herb that has that kind of warning on it, please, please, please do not just take it on your own. You need to take it with someone that knows what they're doing. You need to take it so that you're with someone that can watch you carefully, that knows this, has experience with it, that has clinical experience with pregnancy, midwifery, something like that, and also has a very deep herbal knowledge here. So very important that you're not just like, oh, my friend who says they're an herbalist. No, this not who you want. Okay, you want someone that has experience with these kinds of things. So this is very interesting. It helps improve dark, gloomy depression and relieves dark, twisted emotional congestion. So if you got some deep-rooted trauma, you might want to check out some black cohosh here. The thing specifically for menopause, though, what it's very helpful with is, remember we talked about the heart involvement when it comes to hormones being off. It is antiarrhythmic, it has an emetical property, and it is also a hypotensive herb. So these three things together are also very helpful too. And just in that when we were talking about cycles being more painful and just harder to deal with, it does also have some analgesic properties too, which can be helpful with pain. So that could be an interesting one. So then just in my own personal stuff, it is anti-rheumatic, which I need to find more interesting information on. We got to look into that more. But it is most typically used for estrogenic effects in here. So it can be very helpful in helping to reduce menopausal symptoms. So having the night sweats, having the hot flashes, those hot flashes can be rough. And having the really severe, especially if you have like super severe, like almost violent mood swings, things like that, like this can be a helpful herb for you. So it's definitely one to look into. Okay, so now let's talk about other symptoms. There are so many other herbs that can help you with your symptoms. And we're going to talk mostly about the heart, because that is what we've been talking about. That is what keeps coming up with menopause, is the heart. Protect the heart, protect the heart. The heart is a very powerful and very sensitive organ. Any little thing can affect it. If you get hit in the chest, you will feel palpitations. If your water level is off, you will have palpitations. It tells you hard and fast when something is not right in your body. Your electrolyte balances. If you don't have the right electrolyte balance in your body, it will tell you loudly that there's a problem. And just like we talked about how the lymphatic system is like the superhighway to your body, your heart is what's pumping your blood through your whole body. So your lymphatic and your cardiovascular, okay, your heart, those are the two that are circulating everything through your body. So anything that is wrong with those two systems is going to affect everything. So I'm going to talk about two herbs, and you're not going to be surprised on one of them at all if you followed me for any length of time. But the first one I'm going to talk about is hawthorn. Hawthorn is a really good cardioprotectant herb. It's an excellent herb for helping to support healthy heart and cardiovascular, which is all your veins and your arteries and things, to support healthy function. It is good at toning the heart muscle. So it's something that if you are having heart anything going on, you should be looking into hawthorn berry. because that is an incredibly valuable herb to support good heart health. The second one I'm going to talk about is nettle, stinging nettle, our old friend, our good friend, our best friend, because that's going to knock down your inflammation. In the spring, definitely get out if you can and harvest some early spring nettles and eat those. Like, cook them first. Definitely cook them first, but eat them and get the benefits of all of that nutrition, all of the vitamins and the minerals and things that are in early nettles. You heard me saying here that inflammation is part of menopause. So definitely work on your inflammation. You definitely want to watch for the signs of inflammation. Are you having joint pain? That's another big sign for menopause. Also, having joint pain, having swelling, having a harder time getting out of bed in the morning and at night. If you're like, oh, I'm just a little stiff in the morning, but I loosen up and I'm fine throughout the day. Me too. And I have AS. So that's a big sign that your inflammation is up. If you're bad in the morning and then again at night, your inflammation is up, my friend. If you are having high blood pressure, if your cholesterol is high, all of those things, you likely have other inflammation in your body. So taking something like stinging nettles that is going to be a huge anti-inflammatory herb could be very beneficial for you. And mixing some of these herbs is something that you could totally do too. You don't have to take these just individually, but again, when it comes to phytoestrogens, estrogens, and people that have had estrogen-based cancers and diseases, you really need to make sure that you know what you're doing first before you just start popping these. If you don't have cancer, a history of cancer, if you don't have a strong family history of cancer, then these are things for the most part that you should be able to dive into and to start experimenting with, getting some good information and seeing if they're a good fit for you. So on a personal note, motherwort is something that I started taking. I have noticed some changes. I'm not going to talk about them here on YouTube because they're rather personal, but I have noticed some changes using motherwort. They're not huge changes, but my big changes that I'm looking for is in the palpitations and racing of the heart, which is tachycardia that I get. That has significantly slowed down, but I am also using some other herbs in conjunction with that. And my joint pain is significantly lessened. Now, that's really hard to tell if that has anything to do with motherwort or if it has to do with the prednisone that I was on, which is a big thing, or if it has to do with the Humira that I'm on, because inflammation and joint pain is something that I deal with all the time. So it's hard to judge, but I do know that it is a good choice for me to make, and it's a good thing for me to be on because it is very helpful in helping my overall health. I do know that I am perimenopausal. I do know that I do have perimenopausal symptoms. So I know that I'm going to be supporting my system with things to make this whole fun time easier for me. So I hope that satisfies some answers. These are questions that you all have been asking me for quite some time. I've had some really great conversations about personal things that you all have been dealing with. So keep them coming. If there's something that I did not answer for you and you want more information on, I would love to dive deeper into that with you if it's something that you need to do personally, or if I can make another YouTube video and really dive deep into it here for everybody. I am more than willing to do that. So definitely hit me up down in the comments below. If it's more of a private thing, you can hit me up in my email or DM me on Instagram. Any of those ways are great ways to get a hold of me. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you found it informative and helpful. And thanks for hanging out. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.